Using the script task requires that you often have to work with the variables in SSIS. There are a couple of different ways we can do this, and I'm going to show you both ways that people traditionally work with it. We're going to break this down into a couple of different videos. This video is going to cover both C# and VB, and it's going to cover the easy way to work with variables. If I have my choice, this is the way I prefer to do it. However, not everybody prefers this way. There is no performance difference between the two methods. However, it's for many people either a personal preference to do it the hard way, what I think is the hard way, or really you kind of have to do it that way because of the requirements of what you're programming. So let's cover the hard or the easy way here, and we're going to do both VB and C#. In the next video that you watch, we're going to cover the hard way, but I'm going to let you pick your language. So we're going to do the C# hard way, but there's also a VB hard way. So there's no need to watch both of them. They are the exact same thing. It's just which is your language preference. Okay, so we need a package to start with here. And then we'll need to create a variable. We've done this a bunch of times, right, where we've actually played with variables. However, for somebody coming in brand new to the course, I just want to make sure that you understand how this works. So we're going to drag a script task. We're going to come up here, go to our variables. We're going to add a new variable called file name or remote file name. We were doing that earlier in the FTP task, I think in chapter 6. We'll make it a string, and we'll just say this is at let's see, learnitfirst.com default.aspx. I don't know, I'm just making up whatever, okay? So we'll use that as our variable. Notice the scope. The scope is going to be quite important here. You have to be able to access the variable. You have to be in scope to be able to access the variable. This is a package scope variable, therefore any task in the package is able to use and reference it. However, if we are in a script task here at the package level, but then this variable was defined as a container, a different container, we might not be able to reference it. So you have to understand your scoping. If you don't know scoping, go back to chapter 5, watch the videos on how scoping works with variables. Okay, so the easy way to do this, and let's see, what do you want to do first here, C# or VB? I've got a guitar pick here. Heads has the gold writing on it. Tails doesn't. Let's see. And tails. Okay. Oh, I did it again. So tails is C# and VB will be heads. I got to define that. Let's do it again. So VB is heads, right? Okay, so drop, and it's tails. So we're going to do C# first. So we'll do that first. We'll do C# here in just a second. The easy way to work with variables is to bring them in here. When you work with variables in the script task, you are locking that variable, meaning that it is blocking other people. Now you have to define what that blocking is going to do. Is this an exclusive lock or is this a concurrent lock? So if you understand concurrency models in traditional applications, this is no different. It is okay if we all read a variable. However, it's not okay if some people are in the process of reading the contents of a variable, yet some other people are allowed to change it. So if you lock it for write, then you're going to be locking this exclusive. Okay? So there is a difference between read-only and read-write. Do not lock a variable as a read-write variable unless you intend to change it inside your script task code. You will make this a blocking task. And what I mean by blocking task is that other tasks will not be able to complete because they're waiting on this task to release a variable, for example. So you want to lock at the level that you need to. If you're just going to be reading, that's cool. Go ahead and bring your variable in here and put it in the read-only variables collection. Now you can go ahead and start typing right here if you know your variable names. I find it just a little easier to go ahead and click the ellipsis and find it. It's kind of a pain dealing with this and having to work through this little screen here. Go to your variable, just hit the checkbox, and now you've brought it in here. Notice the syntax. The syntax is namespace, colon, colon, variable name. Important piece here, it's case sensitive. Okay? And it's case sensitive for VB as well as C#. Okay. I say edit. So I happen to be using C# here. Now the easy way to do this in C# is to come down here to your comments and load up right here this little section, the second little paragraph. To reference a variable, here's what you do. Okay, so right there, you just really could copy and paste. So if you remember earlier in our course, we talked about how to do the message box.show, and we said we want to bring that. Well, we need to cast that to a string in C# because the show method requires a string here. And so I need to put my case sensitive variable name, user remote file name. Now, by default, I am in the user namespace, so I can safely remove that and just have it say remote file name. That's your choice as well. And I will. I'll go ahead and leave that out. I usually do not fully prefix my own. And that's really the simplistic way for you to work with a variable. And so we'll bring the name in here, say OK. And sure enough, there's the value of it. Simple, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. Let me show you the VB version. If you don't care about the VB, if you're just a C# person, cool. Go ahead and leave. Bye-bye. It's okay. We'll miss you. So now VB version. Gosh, that's horrible. That is horrible. I hope somebody takes a screen cap of that and posts it up there. Look at the quality of this Learn It First training video. These guys are awesome. Now you might be wondering, why would he do that? That's just absolute ridiculous. I don't know. I did it in case somebody that was a VB person was kind of fast forwarding through the C# stuff, and this would be like a marker. Hey, done with the C# side. You know, also because I really don't take it that seriously. Okay, so I'm going to show you the VB version now, and I'm going to start from scratch. We'll get rid of the C#, that ugly old semicolons and curly braces. Let's create us a new package. In case you're wondering, I have no real preference for the language. They're all fairly easy to work with. Grab ourselves a script task. We're going to make a variable here. I'll do the exact same thing I did in the C# version. We had a variable called remote file name. It was a string. And we'll just, make some file somewhere. I don't know. Do another one, www.scottwiggum.com. Index.html or htm. Okay. So that's what we're going to get back. And we'll come back over here to our script task, and I'm going to choose VB. And I'm going to go through this whole thing just as though you didn't watch the C# side of things at all. So if you did watch this part of the C#, you can kind of scooch it forward a little bit. Okay, so the read-only and the read-write variables section here is really, really important. When you want to work with a variable in script, you are bound by the concurrency laws that SSIS abides by. And it is totally cool. Well, you know what? I'm going to actually think about it like this. Readers block writers, and writers block readers. And what that means is that if you have two tasks and one of them is attempting to read a variable, and then after that read has begun, But before it's completed, okay, so make sure you understand that it's in the process of reading the variable. If another task comes along and tries to write to that variable, tries to change that variable, it will be blocked. It will not be able to complete that operation until the read has completed. The reader is blocking the writer. Now, the opposite is true. If a write operation occurs in a task, well, another task is unable to read that variable's value until the write operation has completed. Okay, that's blocking. And it works the same here as it does in just about any programming language, relational database, whatever you want to consider here. So don't put a variable up here in the read write variables that you actually just want read only access to. Because read only variables, you can have many tasks accessing the same variable as long as we're all reading it. Okay, it's like looking at a slide on a screen. There's lots of people that can look at the slide on the screen, but if somebody wants to change it, they have to take possession of that slide. No one else would be allowed to look at it while they make their little bitty change, and then they would be able to show it. So best practice here is only bring in the variables into the right concurrency model that you need. Don't bring them all in. There's no point in referencing variables that you're not going to work with. So you could type these in. You could do like, user remote file name, and that would actually work. This is in the namespace. So that's namespace variable name, and these are case sensitive. So careful. I prefer though, because it is case sensitive and I can so easily make a mistake, I just grab it right here. I would suggest you don't bother typing it in and that you just type it, you just select it in the little box. Okay, so in the script down here, the easiest thing to do is come down here to the comments and go to this to reference a variable and just copy and paste. Okay? It's really that simple. So I just come down here, I'll use my messagebox.show. We'll pass this guy in, and I need to use that. Now notice that I have fully referenced it with the namespace : variable name. User is the default namespace, and therefore you can omit it. So you could just say remote file name. I probably would really do that. I usually do not have multiple namespaces in my variables. I usually will have a single namespace and just make sure to have different names for everything. And so we go ahead and execute here. We run this guy, and you can see it brings up the value of the variable. Now we're going to come back in the next video, and let me make sure you understand. I'm going to show you the hard way to work with variables, but I'm going to break it into two different videos, one for C# and one for VB. So just watch the one you need to.